With the exception of a few denationalized housewives of our own soldiers, the crowd is exclusively one of men and youths, for, according to custom, the women will not put in an appearance until later in the day. We three white men, the resident, much respected, and wise with the wisdom which comes of long years of experience of this fascinating country, and with a knowledge of Mohammedan law which fills the wisest malams with astonishment, his assistant, and the writer take our stand on the right of the emir's residence. Behind us a few mounted men in gallant array, and immediately on our left a charming group of the emir's sons, or some of them, in costly robes of satin. One little fellow, 8 years old, perhaps, with a light olive complexion, glances rather bored looks from under a snow-white turban. Another rather bigger boy, clad in dark yellow satin, is an imposing figure. A deep ah comes from the throats of the assembled thousands as the blare of trumpets resounds faintly in the distance, and a cloud of dust rises from the road. From out of it there emerge a dozen horsemen charging down the square at breakneck speed, their right arms raised, their multicolored robes flying out behind them. With a shout they rein up their steeds in front of the emir's residence, then wheel swiftly, and are off again whence they came, the avant-garde of the procession. The sound of drums and trumpets gets louder. The head of the procession comes in sight, or, to be more accurate, the dust solidifies itself into a compact mass, flashing and glittering with 1,000 shades. First, many hundreds walking on foot, who, as they enter the square, deploy right and left and mingle with the waiting crowd. Behind them more horsemen detach themselves and gallop towards us, backwards and forwards. Each man is dressed according to his own particular fancy. Some in red, some in blue, some in white, some in green, others in vivid yellows, but most of them, it would seem, wearing half a dozen different colors at the same time, both as to robes and turbans. Their leather boots, thrust into shovel-headed stirrups, are embroidered with red and green. Their saddle cloths and bridles are also richly embroidered and tasseled. The majority, we observe, wear long cross-handled swords in leather scabbards. Some carry thin spears in their hands, one fierce-looking warrior a battle-axe. He seems to have stepped out of the Middle Ages, does this particular chief, his horse wearing a metalled protection as in the old days of the Crusaders. But the heart of the procession, moving up slowly, puts an end to these evolutions, and the horsemen range themselves up on either side of the emir's residence, the gallant beasts, curvetting and prancing as the ah of the crowd changes into a great roar of sound. As a trial of patience I commend the effort to take a photograph over the ears of a horse who is making strenuous efforts to stand up on its hind legs, while a fine and smarting white dust rises in clouds, entering eyes and mouth, and all round you are people in a fine frenzy of excitement, mingled with apprehension, lest your mount takes it into his head to ride amok in the midst of them, which he has every appearance of wishing to do. Rattle, rattle, come the drums, mingled with the long drawn-out notes of the tin or silver trumpets. Suddenly a loud shout arises, a shout of merriment, as a monstrous figure